Nico Hülkenberg is likely to again play super sub for Racing Point in F1's return to Silverstone for this weekend's 70th anniversary Grand Prix, with Sergio Perez in 10-day isolation after testing positive for COVID-19. Hülkenberg's return was one of the surprises of the British Grand Prix weekend, along with the tyre failures being investigated by Pirelli, with wear from high speed and downforce and debris likely factors. He qualified in 13th, but a loose clutch bolt meant his power unit wouldn't start, ruling him out. Perez, who is asymptomatic, admitted his positive test made for one of the saddest days of his career, with the result likely stemming from a quick trip to Mexico after Hungary.
I'm really sad that this happened, but it just shows how vulnerable we are all to this virus. I follow all the instructions from FIA, from my team. After Hungary, I took a private plane to go to Mexico to see my mom for 2 days because she had a big accident. So as soon as she left hospital, I was able to see her.
Four-time F1 world champion Sebastian Vettel was left baffled by his lack of pace in the British Grand Prix, stating that something doesn't stack up as to why his car was very difficult to drive. The German, who secured the final point for 10th at Silverstone, said his race was not stressful, but that he just didn't have a chance on pure pace. I struggled a lot to find my confidence, and I don't know why, so we need to have a good look, he said. And while his teammate Charles Leclerc finished a lucky third, Ferrari has incredibly called out its poor form, with chairman John Elkann stating the Scuderia will have to wait until 2022 for a return to winning. There were no fans at Silverstone on Sunday, but there were protesters, with 4 members from global environmental group Extinction Rebellion unlawfully accessing the track and unfurling a banner at the final corner during the formation lap. The protesters were arrested and their banner removed, with local police opening an investigation. The group admitted it trespassed not to interrupt the race, but to bring awareness to a lack of action on climate change from the UK and European Union. Six-time F1 world champion Lewis Hamilton has all but confirmed he will remain with the Silver Arrows into 2021 and beyond, after the 35-year-old stated he will be on the grid for the foreseeable future. Hamilton, who limped to his 7th British GP win on Sunday with a tyre blowout on the final lap, cementing his charge towards a 7th crown to equal the great Michael Schumacher, says he will stay as long as he's at his best. Obviously, there is a point at which physicality and the mental side can tail off, and I don't know when that's going to be, but I don't see that happening in the short term, in the next 2 or 3 years, he said. Red Bull's Alex Albon is keen to build on lessons learnt during Sunday's British Grand Prix with new race engineer Simon Rennie. The Anglo-Thai driver focused on upping his qualifying game, 12th his best last time out at Silverstone. Albon has trailed the Dutchman over the first 4 races, with the 24-year-old struggling to wring the tricky RB16's neck in qualifying, lagging around half a second when they could be compared. As a result, the squad has opted for stronger support, swapping his race engineer Mike Lugg for Rennie, who's worked and won races with Mark Webber, Kimi Räikkönen, Fernando Alonso, and Daniel Ricciardo. It's hoped Rennie will sharpen up Albon, given his racecraft that saw him 8th last weekend, overhauling a 5-second time penalty.
People do forget it's his 2nd season in Formula One, and he's missed sort of the first half of that. So it's been, a baptism by fire with him, but he coped with that incredibly well last year. He seems to deal with pressure very well, and I think we're just looking for him to make progress on where he finished, last season.
Mercedes will continue to develop its DAS system this season, despite the device banned from 2021. With technical director James Allison admitting it's a voyage of discovery to get the best from it. DAS, used to help tyre warm-up in qualifying and race restarts, allows a driver to control the car's toe, or tracking as it's known in road cars, for optimal rotation of the car's front tyres around the vertical axis. And while it'll only be on the car this season, Allison confirmed the squad won't have to use a development token to remove it for 2021.
You don't actually have to spend a token to remove it because that would simply be unfair. So no token spend needed, just something we have to take off our car and replace with a conventional steering for next year.
McLaren got its British Grand Prix weekend started right, with the historic marque announcing the return of iconic oil brand Gulf in a multi-year deal, with the partnership dating back to the late 1960s, when its founder Bruce was still behind the wheel. The new deal with Gulf will be mostly focused on McLaren Automotive as a preferred lubricant supplier from 2021, though the famous orange disc is already on the MCL 35 and team race suits. Gulf first raced with McLaren from 1968 to 1973, the partnership netting more than 40 wins across F1 and now defunct sports car series Can-Am, before more success at Le Mans in the 1990s with the McLaren F1 GTR, the latest connection part of Zak Brown's vision for the squad.
When you look, what do you need to do to get back to the front of the field? You need great partners, you need great drivers, you need great team members, and I think that's what I've been working on, is assembling the best team possible. I think we're starting to see the results of everyone's hard work here at McLaren.
Racing Point has taken the technical regulations to the limit with its RP20, the pink rocket a photographic copy of last year's title-winning Mercedes W10, enough to be nicknamed a tracing point. And while a hearing on Wednesday will tackle Renault's protest of its brake ducts, a case Ferrari has now waded into, having sent a letter to both F1 and the FIA asking for clarification on the regulations, McLaren team principal Andreas Seidel says the decision will determine whether F1 becomes a so-called copying championship. There is room in the regulations to do a lot more than just take pictures in the pit lane, he said. That's why we think it's important to have these clarifications now. Italian track Mugello could become the first Grand Prix to host spectators this year, with Monza taking a U-turn on its fan plans, confirming the race will now be held behind closed doors. Mugello would be a perfect starting point for fans, with the Prancing Horse celebrating its 1,000th race at its Tuscan track, and a party planned in the nearby city of Florence. But time will tell as to whether people will be able to attend the race, with plans dependent upon Tuscany's local government and COVID-19 restrictions at the time. Tickets are already on sale for the Russian Grand Prix at Sochi Autodrome, with fans likely to be at Germany's Nürburgring, while F1 is expecting tens of thousands at Portugal's Portimao circuit in October.
I feel like we're now starting to get a few little highs, a few little wins back, you know, and getting to race on some circuits that, yeah, we never expected to, especially this year.
Brazilian Grand Prix promoter Tomasz Rohonyi has warned Formula One that the country's motorsport future depends on a new deal at Interlagos, with this year's cancelled event the last on the current contract, and race rival Rio's plans or circuit yet to be finalized. With Rohonyi revealing the potential damage after a chat with Brazilian Automobile Confederation President Waldner Bernardo de Oliveira. I spoke to the president of the Brazilian ASN and he said to me, if you lose the race, Brazilian motor racing will be dead for the next 40 years. Because all these kids who drive karts, they hope one day to go to F1, but they will stop. Brazil's promoter has been the only one to speak out against the sport's cancelled races, having argued that Interlagos can host a safe event, a point backed up by São Paulo Mayor Bruno Covas.
Throughout the last few weeks, we have sent all the data to the organisers of the event, showing that the reality of the city and the state of São Paulo is very different to Brazil's reality, which is what is reported by the news that the pilots and the teams see.
Tanto para os pilotos quanto para as equipes.
It's understood Brazil has paid no race hosting fee for the past 3 years, with former F1 Supremo Bernie Eccleston allegedly having engineered a sweetheart deal for Interlagos on exit. Thanks for watching. To stay up to speed on all things Formula One, make sure you hit the subscribe button.